Welcome to the CCFR Radio Podcast, your source for news, updates, and stories from the CCFR. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 28 of the CCFR Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Rod Giltaka. Thanks for joining me. Yes, you are hearing the second podcast released in 1 week. And you're probably wondering, you know, this guy goes sometimes 3.5 weeks between podcasts that are supposed to come out bi-weekly. And now I'm listening to the second one in a week. What's going on? Has he lost his mind? And you know what? That's a valid question. And there's a good possibility that that's true. But the reason for this is that if you noticed last week, I did just a quick update. I think I just blurted out all the update items in one shot and then uploaded it. And now I'm coming out with a second podcast. And the reason for that is that it's been so busy in the second half of this year in gun control in Canada. It's been just such a clown show that we've, and when I say we, it's everybody at the CCFR and me included, have been involved in so much stuff I normally wouldn't be involved in, trying to fight back this tidal wave of ridiculousness that it's been really difficult. I've had to put the podcast down a few notches on the list of priorities. So now I'm trying to get it back up there. And what I want to do is release podcasts as often as I can, but in the most convenient form that I can to make it possible to get this information out there. I know it's a big circular description there. But anyway, if you noticed last time, I just blurted out an update, had our friend Adriel just upload it right away. Not as fancy as the other podcasts. This one won't be as fancy as well, but I will have Tracey Wilson coming on to give us an update of her activities on the Hill and a couple of other things. I also want to give you a little bit of an update on some other things going on at the CCFR, and I'm going to do it in a neat little package, not as complex as it used to be. So it's a little bit different. It used to be a really neat production. We're going to have to cut down on that just to get the word out to you guys, but I think it's worth it to communicate with you a little bit more often. All right, I got that out, right? All right, a quick CCFR update, even from the last week, man. I have an update for the TV show. The TV show will be premiering. There's been a delay. I'm not going to get into the details of what the reason why there was a delay, but there's certain things that I'll take accountability for. I won't take accountability for this, but nonetheless, we're back on track. We are. I'm excited. I've gotten the first episode. It looks great. The TV show will premiere on Wild TV is the newest update, the first week of February. So the first week of February starts on a Friday. So technically it'll be the second week. It's the week of the 4th, and that's what we're targeting. And I think it's about a 95% chance it will air that first week. So we'll figure out what day is the premiere day, but the week of the 4th in February is a hard date. It's not subject to change unless something catastrophic happens. So that's what I've got for you now. Now, to keep everybody excited, I should have a series trailer. Should be a 2 or 3 minute series trailer showing some of the footage that will be in the actual series. And yeah, it's going to be really exciting. I should have that in the next couple of days. So you should see it this week or early next week. So that's kind of cool. We'll do a web story on that and pass that around. I'll upload it to YouTube, and you can share it and get people excited. It's actually happening. Thank goodness. Nobody's happier about it than I am, I assure you. Also, one of the things we're going to try to do is that news will probably come out in a newsletter. Now, something that we've always been really bad at is getting newsletters out. And it's funny because I had a conversation with someone who's always been a great help to the CCFR. And we talked about a couple of things that, because people come, they idea drop and they, say, oh, here's what we should do. And it's like, well, that's great. Actually, that's the easy part. And doing that thing is the hard part, right? That's why you look at all kinds of groups, not just gun groups, but all kinds of advocacy groups. And they talk about all the things they're going to do. And then, fast forward a year later, actually, they don't get done. And that's because it's really, really difficult to actually do things. And so anyway, he had a couple of ideas and I said, it's funny because I have big ideas too, and usually I don't talk about them unless we're actually going to do them. But one of the things that despite all these great ideas and all the programs that we do, one of the most basic things, which is to get a newsletter out to our members and our supporters, on a regular basis seems to be the hardest thing in the world for us to do. 3 years later, we just turned 3 and we still can't reliably get a newsletter out. So we're going to focus on that, and hopefully you're going to see that at least once a month is what I'd like to do. The other thing, next thing is December 6th is coming up. And as you guys know, it's the annual festival of leveraging victims of a shooting to usher in gun control and to ignore the opinions of others and ignore common sense at the same time. So December 6th, as you guys know, is the anniversary of the shooting at École de Polytechnique, which was the wedge that these people used to enact serious gun control in Canada. Resulted in 2 bills, which were C-17, C-68. Together, is basically the Firearms Act and its regulations. And then every year after that, they clamor for more gun control based on the actions of one person. And of course, what happened is horrific. Nobody ever denies that. It's just one of the biggest disasters in human history. But it doesn't mean that if you don't agree with these people's bad ideas that you're disrespecting victims. I got called a psychopath actually a couple of days ago on Twitter because I just wouldn't agree with bad ideas and thus apparently I'm disrespecting victims, right? Anyway, I'm taking some spears and arrows myself on there, but it seems that common sense prevails at the end. That person actually got heavily triggered and went dark for a few hours, I guess, to console themselves. But nonetheless, we expect that December 6th is going to be the day that the minister of whatever, Bill Blair, is going to come up with his handgun or so-called assault weapon ban. So we're gearing up to try to do what we can in response to that as quickly as we can. So anyway, stay tuned for that. Now, I had one more announcement. Oh, yeah. The first edition of our magazine, the official magazine of the CCFR, which is High Capacity Magazine, is now out. And I got a couple of copies from our partners, Corey and Doug. And you know what? The magazine looks good. It's going to get better. I mean, this is the very first edition. I guess it would be the second issue of it because the first one was just a proof of concept, which wasn't near what it needed to be. And so I'm pretty happy with this first edition. So make sure that you either go to the CCFR webpage, which is firearmrights.ca, sign up if you want to become a member or renew there, and you'll get a deal for $8 for a year's worth of subscription to High Capacity Magazine. And so that's pretty good. I mean, it's 4 issues. It's delivered right to your home. So it's $2.50 an issue. So not too bad. If you want to sign up directly with High Capacity, I think it's highcapacitymagazine.ca. I should have checked first. But anyway, I'm sure you'll be able to find that. You can find a link, I think, on the firearmrights.ca website under the web story about High Capacity Magazine. And if you go to their website, you can get a High Capacity Magazine t-shirt for $20 and get a complimentary subscription for 1 year for them, like I said, for $20. So worth checking out. There's lots of CCFR content in there. We're really proud of it. And I want to congratulate Corey and Doug for a job well done. And again, saying we're going to come out with a magazine that's going to focus on people and events and politics. And they actually did it. So hats off. Lots of respect to those guys for following through with what they said they're going to do, which is hard to find these days. So that's awesome. Also, the Gunny Girl calendars are out. If you go to firearmrights.ca, click on store, you can buy one of those. They're $20. I just checked out what the price was myself a minute ago. And the calendar looks great, graphically really pleasing. Big thank you to all the sponsors that bought months and also provided prizes. So if you're not familiar with this project, it's not one of my projects. It's a little controversial, but it's still, if you're not super sensitive and an absolute snowflake, then I think you'll really enjoy it. It's great. We've got these are all members of the CCFR and supporters of the CCFR. These ladies that did the calendar months. And basically how it works is you spend $20, you get the calendar, and it's actually a lottery ticket. So you turn the calendar over. There's a registration number. You registered on our website, and several times a month there's a draw for prizes. So it's an actual It's an actual lottery ticket for an entire year of draws. And I don't know how many prizes there are. I probably shouldn't say because I don't know, but I would imagine there's anywhere from 30 to 50 prizes. So it's every month there's prizes being drawn. So make sure you grab one of those. All of the proceeds for that calendar go to the ladies program. And one of the things, and again, the ladies program is not one of my projects, so I'm only speaking, from a peripheral perspective. So I think one of the things that they're going to focus on, and I may be speaking out of turn, again, there's my second disclaimer, is ladies range days. So opportunities for ladies to get out to the range for the first time, break the mystery of guns, destroy the fear of firearms. I think that's a really great use of funds and a really great use of effort for our volunteers and stuff. I think two ladies events are going to appear in the television show. I just saw the first episode, and it was the one at Exile Reloaded Range. I think that's in Edmonton. Forgive me if I get that wrong, but Yolanda was there and she did an awesome job. I think she's going to be very excited when she sees the episode. She's there throughout the whole thing. She almost hosts it, which is great. The TV show has been evolving. First, we're going to have hosts, and then it was like, that didn't work because it was hard to corral up the right people. And then they were like, oh, Rod, you should host it. I'm like, I'm not hosting it. I'm in enough stuff. Under no circumstances do I want to do that. And then it was like, okay, well, we're not going to have a host. We're going to have it narrated. And so it's sort of narrated and you sort of have the hosts, but we have pulled a coherent episode template out of it. So anyway, all that to say, Yolanda did a great job and it looked like the ladies had a ton of fun. So I'd like to see the ladies program really focus on those types of events, and the calendar tends to sell really well. So the CCFR will be in a position to subsidize a lot of those events and make more of them happen. So anyway, I know that was a long explanation, but that's what's going on there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for a break right now, and I'm going to come back with a chat with Tracey Wilson, who's going to give us an update of her activities on the Hill, and we're just going to banter a little bit. It's actually going to be kind of fun, so stay tuned for that. Okay, we're back, and we've got Tracey Wilson on the Skype. Hey, Tracey.
Hey, Rod. How's it going today?
It's going not bad.
Good. Well, I've had a very slushy day so far here in Ottawa. I've been running around downtown Ottawa trying to visit senators. So I was in to see yet another senator today. So I think that brings my tally up to a dozen. And, we got 105 senators in Canada. And I'm running around like a maniac trying to schedule appointments with them and see them. And I sometimes feel like it's this big mountain of senators and we're chipping away at them, but we're going to keep at it. I think it's valuable. I think it's well worth it. And we got to get our voice for gun owners heard all across the House of Commons and the Senate.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that obviously we went together to see a few senators, and it was an interesting experience on a number of different levels, but you've got some insight now after seeing a pattern with more than a few senators. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So today I went in and, we had the niceties and shook hands and sat down and introduced ourselves. And he started off, he said, I'm going to tell you right away, I don't know about this bill. I don't understand firearms legislation. I haven't read the bill. I don't know what it's about. So I'm sitting there trying really hard to keep my composure, and I'm nodding and I'm like, okay, but you voted on it. And he says, yes. And I'm like, this is sort of the problem with this system, right? We've
twice
got people,
though, right?
Oh yeah. This is about the third or fourth one, actually.
No, I mean, he's voted twice, isn't it? And it's third reading?
Yeah, it's going into third reading. So this is the problem, and it's happened with multiple visits to senators now, is that's what I keep hearing. Number one, they don't know what the legislation's about. Now, I know they've been bombarded with emails and information and stuff that people have been sending them. Well, guess how much of that has actually made its way to the senators themselves? About zero. Now, they know there's a huge push. They feel the pressure, but are they actually reading the material and the content? They're not. So the only way to really get our message and get our concerns and our contentions with this bill to them is literally face to face, eye to eye. That's the only way to do it. And, we're going into December here at the end of the week, and the House is going to rise mid-December here, I believe the 14th. Yeah, the 14th, the House rises, which means the Senate rises too. And they won't be back till sometime in January. So, I just wish that there was more time. I wish there was more hours, more days, more weeks, and more months to work on this, because it is a big, huge, daunting job. And I can't help but feel like I'm a little bit alone up there. Like I was really happy to have you come to Ottawa and give me a hand, but from Chilliwack, there's only so much you can do. And it just amazes me that when I sit down with these senators and they're really interested actually to hear what I have to say. And I have not had one yet that hasn't agreed with everything I've said. And they nod their heads and they're like asking questions. And they're like, okay, I get it. And it blows my mind that these are the people who are shaping the future for millions of Canadians. And, my only regret is that I can't clone us and have more of us up there visiting them, because it's the way to do it.
Yeah. If we had 3 or 4 people all, splitting off the list and all capable of carrying on productive discussions with people and just blitzing them, but at the same time, the Senate, it's trying to reinvent itself. And they're trying to say, we're nonpartisan, and well, at least some of them, right? The Liberal Party's like, we have no more Liberal senators. They're all independents, although we appointed them. And a lot of these people dyed in wool, Liberals. If it were really legitimate and these people were the last look and they're experienced people there to provide that insight to make sure that laws are fair and consistent and constitutional, all the rest of that stuff, then we wouldn't be sitting there having discussions with people saying, I don't understand the legislation. I haven't even looked at it. And then you say, well, but you voted on it twice. Oh, yeah. And you lose complete faith. I don't know. It's just such a mess. I
do. I was walking away today. He was a very, very nice gentleman. They're all been very nice, even the ones that aren't exactly on our side. And that's something that's different about the CCFR is, I'm not just picking the easy meetings here. I'm picking some challenging ones too. And I was walking away from it today a little discouraged, just because I feel like, man, I wish I could, hold a meeting with all of them. I wish I could really get myself out in front of all of these guys at once, because it's, such a job. I mean, we are lucky to have me here in Ottawa, but it's still a big trip in traffic to get down there. And I get down there and I get parked and I'm trudging through the ice and the snow and the wind's blowing and, to gain my 25 minutes with the senator. And literally, that is probably the only expert knowledge he's going to gain on this legislation through the entire process. Now, that's one guy, and there's 105 of them. So, yeah, it's really difficult. I'm really got my fingers crossed that when they start calling the witnesses to come and testify before the Senate committee, I'm really hoping that they have you on that list, because I think that's our one big chance to make some sort of difference. The Senate traditionally does not send government bills to the incinerator. So I'm not sure there's a big chance of that happening, but there's absolutely a chance for amendments. And, I don't think amendments mean you're accepting the bill. I think amendments mean you're stalling the bill, right? The bill would have to go back to the House. And right now, that's pretty much the only option with the majority government, is to have them have to look at it again. It is a battle, and I wish that we had more time, because I fear that, with the Christmas break looming, and I know that when they come back, they're looking to get this done at committee stage. That's the other cool thing. They haven't even put it to a committee yet. So everyone assumed this would go to Justice Committee. They don't have the same committees as the House of Commons. There's no Public Safety Committee, but there's a Justice Committee, and then there's a Defense Committee. Well, apparently, now it's not written in stone yet, but it looks as though this is going to the Defense Committee, which is really confusing to all the senators because everyone assumed it would go to justice, which looks at, laws and punishments, and it falls a little more in that category. So it looks like it's going to go to the Defense Committee. And I actually had sent a meeting request to the chair of that committee. And although the bill hasn't even been appointed to that committee yet, she refused a meeting with any stakeholders because she wants to try and stay unbiased. I don't know if that's a good thing or not a good thing.
I don't want any information on this bill before I vote on it because of bias.
Right. That's how I took it. I'm like, well, I don't know. Yeah. It's very difficult, and this is the battle that we're up against. Is walking into these fancy senators' chambers, and it's like going into a palace. The literal red carpet and huge, beautiful stone fireplaces, and I'm sitting down with these people who are responsible for crafting the future of millions of Canadians, and they don't even know what I'm talking about.
Well, so it's the palace on the hill, right? These people build themselves palaces.
It absolutely is. I feel like such a peasant when I go there, and trust me, I wear the best blazer I've got, and it's very, very posh, but it's frustrating because I'm just I'm just an average Canadian who wants some fair legislation. I want a fair go for gun owners, and I actually want this government to do something about crime. I don't want to leave this city or this country in the state it's in for my kids and grandsons. So
yeah. And for me, I want all those things, but probably most of all, I just want to be left alone. I got into a Twitter fight this morning. Well, I've just left a few tweets, right? I don't do too much back and forth. I'm trying to do a little bit more, but anyway, I only have so much time. But at the end of the day, and I think some people forget, oh, you know who it was? It was your anti-gun friend. We'll leave her name out of it, but she said that it's absolutely disgusting how gun owners harass advocates and victims. And I'm like, listen, buddy, what you fail to realize is anti-gun groups and the people within them and anti-gun advocates are some of the most narcissistic, dismissive, ignorant people that equate me to child molesters and killers and gang members. And the difference in our position is I just want to be left alone. I'm not trying to take anything from them. They keep trying to insert themselves into my life, and I just want them to get lost and stay away from me. And so, yeah, very frustrating. But, getting back to the senator thing, it feels like a real uphill battle to even sit down with enough of them to make a difference, or to even have the time to have the discussions to make a difference, because they're just an individual as well. And a lot of their stuff goes through staffers, and staffers can have a bias and just be acting on overall instructions as well as they see fit. So, but I think when we had a discussion on the phone a few minutes ago, we have to do something. We can't just sit here and do nothing. And if anybody wants to see how much work the CCFR is doing on the Hill, which was never even our mandate to begin with, we just haven't seen a lot of action from anyone else on the Hill. So we're doing it. And if you want to see what our activity is, go to check out our lobby log. Where is that, Tracey?
You can Google lobby Tracey Wilson Lobby Canada, and that'll bring you directly to our lobby log. Or you can go onto the Lobby Canada website and search Canadian Coalition for Firearm Rights. There's two ways to find it. But yeah, it's pretty extensive, considering like it's leaps and bounds above anything else. And I'm the lobbyist here. I don't have any professional training in this. I just have some common sense, and I just get out and get it done. It blows my mind. I know in the spring I was at Public Safety having a meeting, and they had not even heard from anyone else in 9 months. Like, what is going on here? So, yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I mean,
somebody apparently is doing the heavy lifting, and it's not us.
Well, they must be doing it quietly behind the scenes, because so quietly that nobody can hear them. Yeah. But this was not the path that we originally intended to go down. However, it's pretty apparent that we've got to have this multifaceted, whole of community outreach kind of activism going on. We've got to have boots to the ground. We've got to be doing the lobbying, the public relations. We're on TV, radio. We got to be everywhere, and we absolutely have to. And I just hope it in the long run. I hope it's making a difference for gun owners.
Well, it certainly is, because at least we're putting up a resistance, and that's really important. Just, the Liberals can do whatever they want. That's the fact. So we could sit back and whatever, make political cartoons or do whatever ridiculousness and pass it off as heavy lifting. But we're not, because you can't let these people operate in impunity, and you always have to show that you're there. And I'm not going to get into what the evidence is that it's making a difference in detail again, because I've done that several times. But all that to say, people are still talking about guns, months and months later, when it should have just, went back into the wilderness and nobody gave a crap. People are still talking about it. So we're doing something. And I really appreciate your effort there, as I can't get there as often as I'd like.
No, I know that. And it is a big monotonous job. I've got got my speaking notes from you, and that's fantastic. But you would be amazed how many senators and members of parliament, every level of government tells me the exact same thing. They're so thankful that I've come in and spoken to them, because they just don't have any idea. They don't have anyone else calling them. They just don't know. They need information. And my only regret is, like I said, that I can't, stick them all in one room and take it over and give them my spiel all at once. But one by one, we're going to keep knocking at them as long as we can, and hopefully get you in front of the committee to testify.
Man, that'd be great. I'd like to debate them, not just have a speech.
Well,
a conversation, right?
Well, that's the one thing. If you remember, when we testified in front of the Standing Committee on Public Safety and National Security, it sort of went that way. We had our time to say our opening remarks, and then, we got beat up on for an hour. So I think I'm hoping that it sort of goes along the same lines, just with less Fraggle Raucous. So
yeah, literally holding up signs with scary looking guns.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. Literally.
Do you want people to own this?
These are the people making legislation for, 36 million Canadians. This is the level of people we've got.
You know what? You don't want to see my my anti-pornography techniques. When I'm lobbying against pornography. Do you want to be staring at this for extended periods?
Oh boy. You always got to take it too far, Gil Taga.
Oh, geez. Anyway, well, I appreciate you coming on. Oh, you know what? One more thing. I know it's we've gone long here, so we'll have to wrap it up. But one more thing. You were over at our clothing supplier today having a look at some stuff.
Yes, I was. So we've got an entire new line of clothes ready to go. We went down. I did a little Skype with Rod so you could see them in person. They look amazing. It was so difficult not to just grab everything and jam it in my purse and run out the door. But those should be out within a week or so from today's date. So that's exciting. The other thing I just want to mention quick before we sign off is I will be heading back downtown this afternoon. We've got Ralph Goodale and Bill Blair, who are going to be explaining themselves to Canadians about supplementary estimates. So this is where they have to come up with a bunch of rhetoric and baloney to explain how much C-71 is going to cost Canadian taxpayers. So that should be super interesting. I imagine by the time we air this, it'll already have happened. So I'll provide a recap afterwards on our website. So watch for that, and just keeping up the good fight here in Ottawa.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, and we will see you soon.
All right. Have a great day, Rod.
All right, everybody, that's going to do it for this episode of the CCFR Radio Podcast. I really appreciate you guys coming back and listening to the podcast. It's growing a lot, and it's just such a great medium to, just to update people about what's going on and do it in a little bit more of a personal manner other than a newsletter. I talked about the newsletter in the opening. Don't forget to get your Gunny Girl calendars. You can go to firearmrights.ca, click store, and buy those. When it comes to shipping, let me mention this too. When it comes to shipping, to ship a package is a certain amount of money, no matter what's in there. If you buy a patch for $5 or whatever it is in the store, you're paying the shipping that you would for 4 or 5 t-shirts. So if you go and you buy the Gunny Girl calendar, Make sure that you buy a patch or something to make it worth it for that shipping. Stuff that's not too expensive. And the other thing that I didn't mention in the start of the show is that our main order went in for the clothing line. We should have it within about 6 or 7 days. Wait till you see the new clothes. You guys are going to be super excited. Just in time for Christmas. It's going to be awesome. So stay tuned for that. Also, don't forget to become a Patreon supporter if you can and be part of the CCFR Insiders. And other than that, really appreciate you listening. Make sure you share this podcast so people can get in on it and know what's going on with the CCFR. So keep up the fight in your own circle of people, of people kinds, and as well online. Make sure that you get out there and try to reason with people online. That's really important work that everybody can do at no expense. All right? Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
This is another episode of the CCFR Radio Podcast. Remember, if you don't stand up for your own ability to own and use firearms, who will? Join the CCFR or donate right now at www.firearmrights.ca.